like the sound of many waters, and the earth shone with his glory.
All right, and in the book of Revelation, the 17th chapter, the many waters mean many peoples, nations, and tongues. And Baha'u'llah's revelation wasn't just for a certain country or a certain people, but it was for the oneness of mankind. The first principle of Baha'u'llah is the oneness of the world of mankind. All right, continue.
And the vision I saw was like the vision which I had seen when he came to destroy the city, and like the vision which I had seen by the river
Shabar.
And I fell upon my face.
Okay, here Ezekiel, when he sees the vision of Baha'u'llah, and when he sees Baha'u'llah in vision, he falls upon his face. Do you know why he fell upon his face?
In worship, I would expect.
That's right, in adoration. He sees the great manifestation of God that all the Bible talks about, that all the religions talk about, is going to come and establish peace on this earth and to unite the peoples together into a brotherhood, into the kingdom of God. He sees him, and every time he sees him, he falls upon the face. Okay?
As the glory of the Lord,
As Baha'u'llah.
as Baha'u'llah entered the temple by the Bab,
Okay, now the Bab was the forerunner of Baha'u'llah, so he enters into his ministry by the Bab, facing the east.
The Spirit lifted me up and brought me into the inner court. And behold, the glory of the Lord
Oh,
filled the
behold,
temple.
Baha'u'llah.
And behold, Baha'u'llah filled the temple.
Yes, because the word glory is translated as Baha.
Okay. While the man was standing beside me, I heard one speaking to me out of the temple. And he said to me, Son of man, this is the place of my throne.
Okay, he said to me, this Son of Man is the place of my throne. Okay? And what throne is he talking about here? He's talking about David's throne. He's talking about David's throne. Baha'u'llah is a descendant of King David. And it's in this Son of Man that has a forerunner by the name of the Bab that God is placing his throne. Okay? All right, continue to read.
And in the place of the soles of my feet.
In other words, this man's going to have feet. Okay?
Where I will dwell in the midst of the people of Israel forever.
The International Baha'i Center is on Mount Carmel in Haifa, Israel, the center of Israel. And he came from the east. He fulfills the prophecy from the address. Just like Jesus was born in Bethlehem, Baha'u'llah came from the east to Israel. And he had a forerunner by the name of the Bab, like Jesus had a forerunner by the name of John the Baptist. So here we have address. But we're going to get more address. Let's turn to the 35th chapter of Isaiah.
The wilderness and the dry land shall be glad. The desert shall rejoice and blossom like the crocus. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice with joy and singing. The glory of the Lebanon shall be given to it, the majesty of the Carmel and Sharon. They shall see the glory of the Lord.
They will see Baha'u'llah.
They will see Baha'u'llah, the majesty of our God.
Here it says that the desert will blossom as a rose. When Baha'u'llah was brought to Israel, he was placed in a prison in Akka. And this is right across the bay from Haifa. And it was the most foul prison in the whole Turkish Empire. And they said if a bird should fly over the city, it would die of the stink. The garbage was thrown in the street. There was no garbage collection. There was no toilets and things like that, disposing of these things just thrown into the streets. It stunk. And there was no vegetation. It was just plain desert. But when Baha'u'llah was brought there as a prisoner, many thousands of his followers followed him from Iran and from Baghdad to Israel. And they started cultivating the land and planting flowers and vegetation and things like that, and also some form of irrigation. Later on, the Jews started coming there. In 1844, the Sultan of Turkey lifted the ban of Omar and allowed the Jews to again enter Jerusalem and to come in there. And then he also allowed to buy land. Well, these Jews started building irrigation all over the country of Israel at that time. And if you went there today, Mount Carmel and that whole area is one of the most beautiful spots in the world, where it was barren desert when the coming of Baha'u'llah. So it's blossomed as a rose or as a crocus, and abundantly, just like it says there. And it says that Mount Carmel, after Baha'u'llah was released from prison, he went up on Mount Carmel with his son Abdu'l-Baha and laid out the sites for a universal government of the world, the sites. And some of the institutions of that are now established. So here is the fulfillment of the address. And when Joe will get up there on the blackboard where you write address, and then right after the address write from the east to Israel, and then underneath put Sharon and Carmel. Sharon is the valley by which Mount Carmel is situated. It's right along the seacoast. That whole seacoast in Israel is called the Valley of Sharon. There's Christian carols about Sharon, you know, and things like this because of these prophecies. So this was literally fulfilled with the advent of Baha'u'llah. And just like Jesus was at Bethlehem, here it's even more specific with Baha'u'llah. He comes from the east and he goes to Israel and to Carmel and to Sharon. And this fulfills the prophecies. There's other prophecies concerning the Valley of Acca and the prison there and other things in the Bible. We're just going to give you the name, address, date, and profession among the thousands of other prophecies concerning the coming of Baha'u'llah. So the next one we're going to get into now is date. And this is very, very important. Because there might be some people called Baha'u'llah, and they might have come from Iran to Israel, you know. But we need to get it in the framework of when. So we turn to the 24th chapter of Matthew. This 24th chapter of Matthew, it starts out in stating, starting with the 3rd verse. And do you have that, Betsy?
As he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will this be, and what will be the sign of your coming, and of the close of the age?"
Okay, here the disciples asked 3 questions. When are you going to come? What will be the sign of your coming and the close of the age? So there's 3 questions there that they ask. All right, and he starts giving all kinds of signs, and we're not going to go through them today. People can read them for themselves. We're going to go down to the verse 15, where he answers the question of when will be the close of the age, the date. So read our 15th verse.
So when you see the desolating sacrilege spoken of the prophet Daniel standing in the holy place, let the reader understand.
Okay, now here Jesus himself doesn't give the date, but he tells you to return to the book of Daniel. They gave the date for Jesus himself, for the date for the second coming, or the second Christ. And he tells you to go to the chapter where Daniel is talking about the desolated sacrilege, or the abomination of desolation, and talking about the holy place. And this is found in the 8th chapter of Daniel. So let's turn to the 8th chapter of Daniel.